Kawasaki has built some of the greatest motorcycles on earth. They have also built some catastrophic disappointments, and the used market is selling both at identical prices without telling you which is which. That ends today. 6 bikes you should run from. 8 bikes you should be actively hunting. Every verdict is so clear, you will wonder why nobody said it sooner. Let us get into it. Part 1. The 6 Kawasaki motorcycles to avoid. Now, before we get into this, a quick word of warning. Some of these bikes have enormous reputations. Some of them were category-defining machines in their day. A few of them will make you feel genuinely clever for spotting one on the used market at a suspiciously low price. That feeling is the trap, because between the reputation and the reality, there is often a gearbox flaw, a burning stator, or a plastic component with the structural integrity of a firm handshake that has been quietly waiting to destroy the engine from the inside. We are going to expose every single one, starting with a touring legend that handles exactly like it sounds when you call it a touring legend, which is not a compliment. Number 6, Kawasaki Concours 1000 GTR 1000. We are starting with a bike that sounds incredible on paper, a touring motorcycle, a Kawasaki, made for nearly 2 decades straight, from 1986 to 2006. 20 years of production should mean 20 years of refinement, right? Wrong. Completely, spectacularly wrong. The Concours 1000 packs a 997 cubic centimeters, liquid-cooled, inline-4 under its considerable bodywork. In real life, that engine is installed in a chassis so top-heavy and so outdated that riding it back-to-back against any modern sport tourer feels like stepping out of a time machine and immediately tripping over your own shoes. It handles like a school bus attempting to be a sports car. The fairing is enormous. The ergonomics belong in a museum. And if the fuel tank petcock decides to have a bad day, which it will, fuel floods the cylinders. That is called hydraulic lock, and it means your engine internals are attempting to compress liquid, which they absolutely cannot do, and which costs a very significant amount of money to repair. Think of it as the mechanical equivalent of the petcock saying goodbye and taking your wallet with it. You can find these used for $1,500 to $3,000. The temptation is understandable. Resist it. The Concours 1000 is a machine from a different era, and that era's problems came with it. If that sounded expensive to own, wait until you hear about a bike that will leave you stranded before you finish your morning commute. Number 5. Kawasaki Vulcan 500 EN500. Here is the part where we have to have an uncomfortable conversation about a bike that looks like a deal and feels like a deal, right up until the moment it becomes a very expensive paperweight on the side of the road. The Vulcan 500 ran from 1990 to 2009, 498 cubic centimeters, liquid-cooled, parallel twin. Used prices sit at $1,500 to $2,800, and for that money, you are getting something that genuinely commits to the cruiser aesthetic on a beginner budget. The engine itself is actually good. Nobody is disputing that. The problem is the stator. The stator charges your battery while you ride. On the Vulcan 500, it is notoriously, almost impressively weak. It burns out. When it burns out, your battery dies, and your motorcycle becomes a very heavy, very inconvenient object with no forward momentum. Kawasaki somehow built a reliable engine and then attached it to a charging system that treats reliability as a philosophical concept rather than a design goal. There is also significant highway buzz at sustained speeds. The cam chain tensioner is another known weak point. The chassis feels cramped for average to tall riders in ways that aftermarket modifications never fully resolve. Before you spend even $2,000 on one of these, hit the like button right now and keep watching, because the must-buys section will show you exactly where that money should go instead. Our next avoid is a bike so small and so rev-hungry, it will age the engine faster than a diet of pure stress. Number 4, Kawasaki Eliminator 250. The Kawasaki Eliminator 250 ran from 1988 to 2007, 249 cubic centimeters, liquid-cooled, parallel twin. Used prices range from $800 to $1,800, which is almost nothing. and that price makes it enormously tempting as a first bike. Here is what the price is not telling you. To make any usable power, this engine needs to be held at high revs, constantly, aggressively. There is almost no mid-range torque, which means highway on-ramps become a white-knuckle exercise in hoping the power arrives before the semi-truck does. Safe highway merging is a negotiation, not a guarantee. Those constant high revs are not free. They cost you in camshaft wear. The top end of this engine is under continuous stress in normal operation, and oil starvation accelerates that wear dramatically. Engines that work hard every single mile wear faster than engines that do not. That is not an opinion. That is thermodynamics. For $800, you are buying someone else's problem in a very compact package. Our next Avoid was legendary in its day, one of the fastest production motorcycles ever built. But legends have blind spots, and this one has a sharp and expensive blind spot hiding inside the gearbox. Number 3. Kawasaki Ninja ZX11 ZZR 1100. Oh, we know what you are thinking. The ZX11 on an Avoid list? This was the fastest production motorcycle in the world. 1,052 cubic centimeters, liquid-cooled, inline-4, 147 horsepower. It held the top speed crown for 6 straight years. You can find one used for $2,500 to $4,500, which sounds like one of the greatest deals in motorcycling. And it mostly is, except for second gear. The ZX11 is known, documented, and widely reported to jump out of second gear under heavy acceleration. The gear dogs, the small protrusions on the gear faces that lock gears into engagement, wear round over time. When sufficiently round, the transmission decides staying in second gear is more of a suggestion rather than a commitment, and it pops out at speed, under power, during an acceleration run. This is not a one-off defect. This is a recognized pattern across the entire ZX11 community, documented in owner forums and buyer guides going back decades. The fix, when it fails completely, involves opening the gearbox. That is not a cheap afternoon. The bike is otherwise extraordinary. The engine is stout. The ram air induction is genuinely clever. The speed credentials are absolutely real. But buy one knowing what second gear may eventually think about your throttle inputs. Our next bike is a more recent offender with charging system problems that will feel very familiar after reading the Vulcan 500 entry. Number 2. Kawasaki Ninja ZX6R 1998 to 2002. The late 90s ZX6R is a track-focused weapon in the street bike concept. 599 cubic centimeters, liquid-cooled, inline-4, production years 1998 to 2002. Used examples are priced between $2,000 and $3,500. The geometry is dialed entirely for circuit riding. Lean angle, clip-on height, weight distribution. All of it was tuned for smooth track pavement, not potholes left by a city that forgot about that block in 2011. On the street, that geometry translates to uncomfortable in ways that accumulate over any meaningful distance. Add a charging system where the stator and regulator or rectifier combination is prone to failure, resulting in battery drainage that mirrors exactly what we described in the Vulcan 500, just with sport bike ergonomics, making the experience more miserable when it happens. $2,000 for an uncomfortable track bike with charging system concerns is not a bargain. It is a project disguised as a purchase. Subscribe to this channel right now so you do not miss the must-buy list, because number 1 on that list is a machine that makes every dollar feel like 5. Our final Avoid has its own nickname for the part that fails, and that part sounds like a children's book character. It is anything but. Number 1. Kawasaki KLR 650, early generation 1 models 1987 to 1995. The KLR 650 is one of the most iconic adventure bikes ever made. 651 cubic centimeters, liquid-cooled, single-cylinder, an absolute icon of accessible adventure riding, and the early Generation 1 models, built between 1987 and 1995, are currently on the used market for $1,200 to $2,500. The problem is a component so notorious that the dual sport community gave it its own name. They call it the 𝐑𝐄𝐑. The 𝐑𝐄𝐃𝐑 is the factory balancer chain tensioner. It is made from a material and to a specification that was apparently optimistic about long-term durability. When it snaps, which it will, the balancer chain begins destroying the engine from the inside out. Not slowly, not gradually, catastrophically. The irony is spectacular. You buy a rugged adventure bike designed to survive harsh conditions, and a fragile factory metal component decides to end the engine's life with no warning and maximum drama. The early generation is also simply heavy for a single cylinder and underpowered against modern lightweight adventure bikes that offer significantly more capability for similar or lower money. The combination of obsolete performance and a known engine-killing failure point makes the early KLR a bike to avoid, unless you are specifically buying it to do the 𝐑𝐄𝐃𝐑 upgrade immediately and you know exactly what you are getting into. That is the avoid list. 6 bikes, 6 legitimate reasons to keep your wallet closed. Now let us talk about the 8 Kawasaki motorcycles that genuinely deserve your money. Part 2. The 8 Kawasaki must-buys. All right, you survived the bad news. Now here is the good news, and there is a lot of it. Because for every Kawasaki that will drain your bank account and your patience simultaneously, there are 2 more that will run for 100,000 miles on nothing but oil changes and basic goodwill. All the motorcycles we are about to mention deserve to be in your garage. We are counting down from number 8, and by the time we reach number 1, you are going to be opening a new browser tab and searching the used listings, whether you plan to or not. Number 8. Kawasaki Ninja ZX14R. Everything on this list earns its spot by offering genuine value for money. The ZX14R earns its spot by offering value and the ability to make your entire existence feel like a launch sequence. 1,441 cubic centimeters, liquid-cooled, inline 4. Production ran from 2006 to 2022. Used prices sit between $6,000 and $10,000, the highest on this list and also the most justified. 190-plus horsepower, touring comfort, luggage capacity, an engine so massively overbuilt that it handles extreme mileage without missing a beat. This is not a fragile, high-strung superbike that needs a service every 3,000 miles and treats anything below 6,000 RPM as a personal insult. The ZX14R pulls from low in the rev range with torque that makes lesser bikes feel dishonest about calling themselves motorcycles. Hypersport capability, everyday usability, an engine that runs forever. A used market price that would make a new bike buyer genuinely furious about their choices. If the ZX14R is too much for daily needs, but you still want shaft-driven, maintenance-minimized touring performance, our next pick has you covered for a fraction of the price. Number 7. Kawasaki KLR 650, Generation 3 fuel-injected, 2022 to present. We just told you to avoid the early KLR. Now we are telling you to buy the new one. This is not a contradiction. This is exactly what a 27-year product development cycle looks like when a manufacturer actually listens. 651 cubic centimeters, liquid-cooled, single-cylinder. Production began in 2022. Used prices range from $4,500 to $6,200. Kawasaki fixed the 𝐑𝐄𝐃𝐑. They updated the tensioner design and added fuel injection, making cold starts effortless and low-end fueling dramatically more linear than the old carbureted models. The bike that was once a mechanically charming adventure machine with a catastrophic Achilles heel is now a mechanically competent adventure machine with no such asterisk attached. The KLR has always been big, comfortable, and capable of crossing continents on a budget. The new generation kept all of that and removed the one thing that made buying an early one feel like a calculated risk. If you want an adventure bike that will genuinely go anywhere and not hold any mechanical grudges against you for asking it to do so, the Generation 3 KLR is the answer. From pure adventure capability, we are swinging now toward a bike designed for riders who need every commute to feel like a small victory. and it delivers. Number 6. Kawasaki Vulcan S. The Vulcan S is a modern cruiser that looked at the traditional cruiser formula and said, what if we made this actually fit the rider? Production from 2015 to present. 649 cubic centimeters. Liquid-cooled, parallel twin. Used prices between $4,000 and $6,000. The headline feature is the 𝐏𝐄𝐀 system. Kawasaki engineered adjustable handlebars, adjustable foot pegs, and adjustable seat positioning directly into the bike's design. This means the Vulcan S physically adapts to you, rather than requiring you to contort yourself into whatever position the designers considered average. Short riders, tall riders, wide riders, narrow riders. The Vulcan S fits them all. The engine is the proven 649 cubic centimeters parallel twin that Kawasaki has been using across multiple platforms for years. It is comfortable, reliable, and supported by a parts availability network that makes finding components essentially effortless. It is not a traditional cruiser. It does not pretend to be. What it is a thoughtfully designed modern machine with a genuinely rider-focused ergonomic approach that almost nobody else in this segment is offering. If comfort and adjustability matter more to you than aesthetic tradition, the Vulcan S is the obvious choice. Our next bike proves that you do not need 1,000 cubic centimeters to have a genuinely excellent all-around motorcycle experience. Number 5. Kawasaki Ninja 650. The Kawasaki Ninja 650 has been in continuous production since 2006. That is not a coincidence. That is the market telling you, with 18+ years of sustained purchasing behavior, that this motorcycle is correct. 649 cubic centimeters. Liquid-cooled, parallel twin. Used examples run from $2,500 to $5,500, depending on year and condition. The trellis frame is the engineering highlight here. Rather than a conventional tube steel or aluminum perimeter frame, Kawasaki built a rigid, lightweight trellis that provides exceptional handling precision while keeping weight impressively low. This is not a detail that sounds exciting until you actually ride the bike and wonder why everything else feels slightly vague by comparison. The Ninja 650 is remarkably low maintenance. Valve checks happen at significant intervals. Oil changes are straightforward. The parallel twin is undemanding and broadly forgiving in ways that make it an excellent choice for new riders and an excellent choice for experienced riders who would simply like a motorcycle that does not create drama. Sports styling with sport touring comfort and daily rider reliability. Make this the most versatile Kawasaki in the lineup. Now drop a comment below right now telling us which bike on this list you would actually buy. Seriously, we read every single one. Our next bike wears the same engine as the Ninja 650, but wraps it in a completely different package designed for riders who want upright comfort and confident command over traffic. Number 4. Kawasaki Z400. The Kawasaki Z400 is the Ninja 400 with its clothes off. Naked, upright, aggressively styled and built from 2019 to 2023. 399 cubic centimeters, liquid-cooled, parallel twin. Used prices between $3,200 and $4,500. The Nissan ABS brakes are the standout feature here, providing modern stopping performance that genuinely adds safety without adding complication or weight in meaningful ways. The upright seating position gives you visibility over traffic that the Ninja 400, with its forward sport lean, simply cannot match in urban riding conditions. If you need to be seen and need to see in stop-and-go commuting, the Z400's commanding position is a practical advantage every single day. It is robust, widely recommended by the riding community as a genuinely no-regrets purchase, and it shares the DNA of the Ninja 400, which is the gold standard in its segment. Everything that makes the Ninja 400 excellent is present here. It is just expressed differently in ways that favor everyday commuting over weekend canyon carving. The motorcycle before this one is one of the most enduringly popular Kawasaki models ever built. It has been in continuous production so long that it has outlasted entire categories of competing bikes. Find out why next. Number 3. Kawasaki Versys 650. The Kawasaki Versys 650 has been in production since 2007 and shows absolutely no signs of stopping. 649 cubic centimeters, liquid-cooled, parallel twin. Used prices from $3,000 to $6,500, depending on year. The long travel suspension is the defining characteristic. While most street bikes tune their suspension for handling precision, the Versys prioritizes compliance, soaking up urban road surfaces that would send shock waves through a tighter suspended sport bike. Commuting is genuinely comfortable. Extended touring is genuinely pleasant. It occupies a middle space between adventure bike and sport tourer that turns out to be exactly where a lot of people actually want to be. Some riders notice a characteristic ticking from the valve train that the community calls the 𝐏𝐑. It sounds alarming. It is a normal engine characteristic, not a failure indicator. Once you know what it is, it becomes just part of the bike's personality, like a quirky coworker who is still excellent at their job. The Versys has survived this long in production because it is genuinely, consistently, unfailingly good at being an everyday motorcycle. That is harder to engineer than it sounds. Our next pick takes everything great about the Versys engine and installs it into a chassis that takes beginner friendliness seriously enough to build a bike that rides properly. Number 2, Kawasaki Ninja 250R, 2008 to 2012. The Kawasaki Ninja 250R is the motorcycle equivalent of a reliable old friend who shows up every time without complaint, never asks for anything complicated, and somehow still impresses you years later. 249 cubic centimeters, liquid-cooled, parallel twin. Production years 2008 through 2012. Used prices between $1,500 and $2,800. The 𝐏𝐂𝐑 carburetors are the mechanical highlight. Yes, they are carburetors, not fuel injection. And yes, they can gunk up if the bike sits for extended periods without fresh fuel. But when they are running, they are incredibly responsive, brutally simple to diagnose, and even simpler to clean. This is a machine you can understand completely with basic tools and a YouTube video. That transparency of mechanics is a genuine feature when you are a new rider, learning to maintain your first motorcycle. The parallel twin configuration lets this engine rev happily to its red line without the harshness of a single cylinder. The result is a bike that is fun to ride quickly, easy to maintain, and genuinely difficult to kill as long as you change the oil on schedule. If the carburetors gunk up from sitting, clean them. 30 minutes, basic tools, done. Then ride another 50,000 miles. The Ninja 250R will outlast most of the bikes parked next to it at any given stoplight. Click the next video on your screen right now after this one, because what we have lined up next goes even deeper on bikes that will outlast everything else on the used market. But first, our final Kawasaki must-buy, the one that started the gold standard and has been setting it ever since. Number 1, Kawasaki Ninja 400. If you could only buy one Kawasaki motorcycle on the used market, this is it. No other bike in this class does everything this well for this price. 399 cubic centimeters, liquid-cooled, parallel twin. Production years 2018 through 2023. Used prices between $3,500 and $4,800. The slipper clutch is the feature that defines the riding experience. Under aggressive downshifting, the slipper clutch prevents the rear wheel from locking up by allowing the clutch plates to partially slip when engine braking forces exceed what the tire can handle safely. This is technology that used to be reserved for race bikes and premium superbikes. The Ninja 400 ships with it standard, and it transforms downshifting from a white-knuckle exercise into something that feels confident and controlled at every skill level. It is agile. It is lightweight. It is faster than beginners expect and engaging enough for experienced riders to genuinely enjoy pushing its limits. Early models had some stiffness in the clutch pull that could be corrected easily and inexpensively. That was the only meaningful early production issue. Everything else worked properly from the factory, continued working properly, and will continue working properly with basic routine maintenance. The riding community has spoken about the Ninja 400 with consistent, sustained, enthusiastic endorsement since the day it launched. When an entire global riding community agrees on something across years of real-world use, the correct response is to listen. The Ninja 400 is not the flashiest Kawasaki. It is not the fastest or the most powerful or the most intimidating in a lineup. What it is the best motorcycle Kawasaki makes for the largest number of riders at the most accessible price on the used market. That is not a small thing, that is everything. 6 bikes to avoid, 8 bikes to buy. Every single one a Kawasaki, which means the quality difference between the right choice and the wrong one is not about brand loyalty. It is about knowing what you are buying before you spend the money. The avoid list will cost you in repairs, in frustration, and in time. The must-buy list will reward you with reliability, with riding enjoyment, and with resale values that hold up the way they should. The money is yours, the choice is yours. Now you have the information to make it well. Click the next video on your screen right now, and let us keep finding the bikes that are actually worth your time and your wallet.